folks, today's video is going to be a bit different because it's going to be a discussion video, and the topic is going to be the growth of the kidult consumer, of which we are examples.
Yeah, part of that group.
Talking about how toy manufacturers are sort of catering to this new group, and I'd like to talk about what I see as a bit of a gap in the market.
Oh, yeah.
For what toy companies are producing, and that market being robots. Because it seems like toy companies are not really giving us the products that we want.
Right.
And it's being left up to other companies, not toy companies,
Oh, yeah.
to produce those things.
So an
like
example.
The eye leaks.
So I see. So you're saying that toy manufacturers are not filling this gap, and you're saying it's being left to what relatively new up-and-coming companies to.
Yeah, like new companies like Energize Lab with the eye leaks, and Key Eye Tech that gave us Luna. So first of all, let's get a definition of a kidult. Kidults have been described as simply adults who buy toys for themselves.
Right, so that's anybody who's 18 years old.
And older.
And older.
And this has been a growing sector. It now makes up an amazing 25% of toy consumers.
That's a big group, isn't it?
So a quarter of toys are sold to adults who are buying them for themselves.
Right. And yet they were really engineered for children, if we just split people into two groups.
Not always now, because toy companies have started to cater
for kidults. So toy companies are making things for kidults then.
So Barbie has always had a big adult collector base.
Yeah.
And for many years now, the makers of Barbie have made limited editions that are very expensive
for the collectors,
adult collectors. But there's been more recent toys like Lego now say on their website that they actually state we make toys specifically for adults, and those are things like based on Star Wars or Harry Potter.
Yes.
And it's interesting why this has happened. Several publications say it's to do with the pandemic, that during the pandemic there was a big rise of adults buying toys for themselves.
Right. That's interesting. I can't think it's just to do with that, though. I bet.
Well, other things that have been mentioned has been buying toys for stress relief. I think conditions like anxiety and other sort of stress-related problems, they're more common now.
I think the rise of the kidult, though, the adult consumer of toys, possibly predates those two sorts of points you've just made, though. Although I think those have increased the effect dramatically, a more stressful world and the pandemic and things like that.
One of the big themes in terms of toy companies producing things directly for adults are toys based around nostalgia.
Yeah.
So basing things around what was popular in particular the 1980s, the 1990s and the 2000s.
Right. Yeah. So like you're talking about Furby there, that one springs to mind straight away. Yes.
And interestingly, this year we've seen a lot more of that sort of nostalgia type thing being produced.
Furby up. Furby up.
So this is the brand new Furby that's come out for Christmas this year. And it's interesting because Hasbro obviously wants to appeal to kids.
Yeah.
And they've said they've taken into consideration what kids want now.
Right.
But there's this big fan base of Furbies.
Which are kidults.
Kidults, yeah.
And are you saying they wanted to maintain hold of those as well?
Yeah, but I think there's a bit of a problem here because
Bit of a tension, like.
Yeah. Because what they are producing with kids in mind may not necessarily be what adults want.
That's what Furby was going to say.
So kids
Yep,
now
here's
will
two
expect
besties
Furby's
talking.
mouth to open.
Yeah.
But kidults absolutely do.
Yeah.
So nice.
And there's been so many complaints by collectors about the mouth not
Furby was
moving.
going to say.
But I think they've done a, you know, considering that tension between kids and kidults in catering for them, I think they've done a pretty good job of appealing to both, don't you? Maintaining hold
I think
of
it
the
could be
kidults.
better.
It could be better, yeah.
Like with Lego, they specifically make some Lego products just for adults.
Ooh,
And I think when you try and make something like this that's for both adults and kids, it's you're going to get some.
So you said you should have brought two out then, one specifically for kidults and one for
And this is a point I'm going to return to. There are kidults who absolutely love robotic pets, interactive animatronic toys.
Yeah, I think it's a big group,
And I don't feel like we're being really... I don't feel like we're really being catered for in the same way as people who are into Lego or into Marvel superhero figures.
Right.
Or into Barbie dolls, for instance, or American Girl.
Okay, so we're not being catered for as much as you think we should, but certainly some of these robots here are aimed at us, aren't they? Kidults, yeah?
Well, obviously the Luna and the iLeaks are, but they're not by toy companies.
Right.
And look how popular they've both been, particularly iLeaks have been massively popular.
Yeah, so you're saying that toy companies have actually lost out then, really? Energized Lab, that made the iLeaks, what were they making before then? They certainly weren't making toys every year,
they were making parts, weren't they?
They were making servos and other things,
But they obviously see that there's a market for this sort of product.
Yeah.
Just sticking with the theme of nostalgia, I think the Bitsy's got a bit of that about it.
It has, yeah. That would be lost on the age group it's aimed at, though.
Yeah.
I mean, straight away, you know, when I saw the Bitsy, all the chunky graphics and the characters and the sounds.
Especially the games.
Oh, the games, yeah. They just remind you of the stuff from the 1980s.
It also reminds me of Tamagotchis, and Tamagotchis themselves are something that's been reintroduced in recent years. But something I'll say about the Bitsy is that though there are some aspects that appeal to adults, the overall content of it, people have said it's really simple and repetitive because it is aimed at kids. And this is what I mean about things that are produced that are electronic, interactive, animatronic or robotic. There doesn't seem to be things specifically produced by toy companies aimed at adults like you find with the Lego and the Barbies.
Yeah, even though they make up 25% of the market, they're not being aimed at specifically.
Not for this sort of sector of toys.
Yeah.
Another interactive toy that come out this year that is like a relaunch of one that came out not as many years ago this time, but it's still about 6 years, I think.
6 years ago, yeah.
Is the Fingerlings. When Fingerlings first came out, if you were 8, you'd be 14
You'd be 14
now.
now, yeah.
And I think they are sort of appealing to those teenagers that remember them when they first came out. But like you say, it's still pretty childish. Even though they obviously have relaunched it because they're thinking of people who had them when they were kids first time round. I've got something here that is not interactive and not electronic. It's just a plush. Part of my plush collection, because I do have a plush collection.
Right. So why is that here then?
That's here because it's by Build-A-Bear, and a recent article stated that 40% of Build-A-Bear products are now bought by adults. Staggering 40%.
That's interesting.
In the rest of this video, we're going to mention these two little guys again, because the rest of this video is going to be a bit of a debate as we've got a difference of opinion on this, we're going to answer this question, give our opinions on this question. Can toy companies produce high-end animatronic robotic toys like these eye leaks?
Yeah.
Now, I think that they can, but you think that they can't. I think that it's more a choice.
Yeah.
And you think that they just cannot produce them.
That's right. I don't think they can produce them because, well, take these iLix, right? These iLix are high-quality robots. There's lots of little servos in there, and they're particularly high-quality servos. So, you know, they're not just your standard model servos you can get off eBay. Like, toy companies don't tend to make toys with high-quality servos in. They mainly, if you take a good example is the Lola droid that came out recently. It's got a lot of complex movement to it, but it is repetitive, and that complex movement is mainly through mechanical programming using cogs, cams, belts and gears. No, and just a couple of DC motors. In fact, there might only be one DC motor in the not high quality servos and not multiple of them.
I think the toy companies could produce something that would appeal in the same way as the iLeaks do to adults, but wouldn't necessarily have to use servos.
Right, they'd be made in the same general lines as they've made for toys for donkey's years.
Well, I think they could use some of the principles that they've used, but then use maybe components that are a bit better, because they can up the price. Because one thing that's been found is that adults will spend more money on a toy for themselves than they will for a toy for a child.
But they expect quality as well. The adults expect quality.
See, I don't think you have to have servos and you have to use servos in order to produce a quality product.
If it's got movement in it, well, I don't know. I disagree with that. I mean, if you look at those iLeaks now, there's a lot of precision movement. There's not the same amount of repetitive movement as you would get in a toy.
But that's partly to do with programming.
It is, and servos are programmable, and microcontroller programmable. If you've got a toy and it's full of mechanical linkages and cams, it's got one set program.
Not necessarily. It depends how you're using those linkages and cams.
Yeah, so you're saying you can achieve the same sort of complexity mechanically. I disagree with that.
So I think it's more choice rather than they're not able to do it.
Yeah.
And I also think that because I think they choose childish humour when they put humour into things like the Furbies, like they use a lot of toilet humour.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, they're always breaking wind all the time. And so that's the sort of humour that's aimed at a younger age group. Yeah, whereas the humour that's on these iLeaks is different, isn't it?
I think it's hilarious.
It is, because it appeals more to adults.
So because that's actually a choice and not a restriction, it's one of the things that makes me think that they're not making electronic and robotic and animatronic toys aimed specifically at adults, not because they're not able to, but through choice.
Right, okay. I see what you're saying, yeah.
So folks, I'd be very interested to know what you think, if you think that toy companies are not capable of giving us things like iLeaks, or that they're actually choosing not to, and the reason we're not getting the products is because of a choice rather than an inability.
Okay.
But that's it for this video from these kidults. Hope you found that interesting and entertaining. Thanks for watching as always, and hope to see you next time.